Welcome to This Week in the World of Wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review. And I gotta say, for me personally, this is a pretty lukewarm episode of Raw. There was some good stuff in here that I thoroughly enjoyed, but there was some other stuff that I just treated with absolute indifference. And I think you want to be as hot as possible when you've got a pay-per-view looming in now 20 days. You know, Fastlane is on the 21st of February. And I didn't really feel like this is the best show to really get Fastlane hype, save for the main event, because I do feel like, in my opinion, they did some good stuff there. So this was a middle-of-the-road to almost, below average Raw for me personally. Ashton, what did you think of it?
John, you might be surprised by this. I don't know if you paid any attention to my Twitter tonight, but in my opinion, this Raw was absolute garbage. To me, this is the worst Raw that the WWE has put out in months, going back to probably even before TLC. This was just awful, in my opinion. And here's the thing. If you said that you thought it was average, if anyone thought that this was an amazing show, I disagree, but more power to you. I don't want to stop anybody from enjoying something that makes them happy. So if you really love this show and you do not want to hear, I don't know if I should say a couple or at least one person take an absolute dump all over the entire thing, I'm just going to tell you right now, you probably want to not listen to the rest of this video, because I have no intention of being gentle with this Raw. I thought it was garbage.
Dude, that's fair enough. And I mean, hey, what a better way to get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. Now, I don't want to get to you right away, because I actually, for a change, have two nitpicks.
Awesome.
A little bit of a change of pace. Now, they may be nitpicks that people find underwhelming or even flat out unnecessary, but it's just things that bothered me. First and foremost, Team Bad tonight. I think what bothered me about this was they had a chance to do something different and to go against that stereotype that they've built up on the main roster that all women hate each other. And they didn't do it. Because here's the thing, the pre-match promo before Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch, it wasn't anything to write home about. I'm not trying to give anybody credit for their mic work, but I did like when Naomi said, me and Tamina, we're veterans. We knew this day would come, and it's cool. That seemed like a proper justification for an amicable split. And then Sasha, doubling down. I came here to make a legacy. And then ultimately, it's for nothing in the course of the Sasha-Becky Lynch matchup, and we've got friction between this team now. So none of the teams that originally came into play here for this quote-unquote Divas Revolution, which I am so sick of that term, and I only used it because that's a term they use, now have friction. Now they've just utterly dissolved in a violent and ugly manner. And I just thought we had a chance to be different, to show that, no, not all women have to hate each other. They can have nuance and respect and still be competitive. But they just crapped all over that, so that was a nitpick for me. And really, just to get right along to my second nitpick, the announcement for Fastlane between Kalisto and Del Rio again. I think I only made this a nitpick because I couldn't make this a full-blown Heat of the Night, because I don't know if these two are destined to dance at WrestleMania, and if there's a plan for that. So here's what I'm going to say. If that isn't the plan, I really wish the Fastlane matchup would have been 2 out of 3 falls, because I think that's a really appropriate stipulation given the story here. But if it is in the cards that these two are going to do WrestleMania, I can deal with this, but I'm still not entirely enthused about it because I feel like this matchup is played out. So those are my two nitpicks tonight, two things that really just kind of bother me and I wanted to vocalize on this show. So,
okay. I don't disagree with either one of your nitpicks. I do agree that the whole thing with Team Bad turning on Sasha was not great. And then, of course, I don't know if I really even have a problem with Kalisto versus Del Rio again, because Del Rio does have a rematch, right?
Right. So, at least you're sticking with that
right.
Sort of continuity, ex-champion and whatnot. So
yeah, but as far as continuity goes, I wasn't even planning on bringing this up as a Heat of the Night. It slipped my mind, but I'm glad that you kind of brought this to the forefront. I love that we have continuity in the sense that Del Rio gets his rematch with Kalisto because he just lost the title, so he has a rematch clause, and yet Roman Reigns has to fight to face Triple H for the title.
I guess the only justification, albeit very loose, is because Del Rio's a heel and the authority structure is heelish.
Right.
That he gets a pass while Roman Reigns, being the babyface, has to struggle. But again, even I concede that's a very loose justification, because you can really take that to its logical extreme. And again, like we said on the last Raw TWitWoW, why is Roman Reigns even in the fight to begin with? Which
exactly.
Even,
so to me, for the authority, they can either make it seem like it is a contractual obligation that Roman must have a rematch for the title, and that would be the excuse for them to just let him and Triple H have their match. Or if they don't want him and Triple H to have their match, don't put him in the match to face Triple H.
Right.
It's really like there are a lot of options that they could have gone with, and they picked probably the dumbest one.
Right. I completely agree with you there.
Okay. So, like I said, I wasn't even planning on that. My first heat of the night is that the WWE continues to insult our intelligence. The first one actually being, I'm glad you brought this up because I'm going to build off of it, teasing Team Bad and being like, oh, yeah, unity, they're going to stay together. When everybody in their right mind knew for a fact that even if it wasn't tonight, this was just another tease at someone being babyface when everyone already knew that they were going to be, or at least turn, or whatever you want to call it, heels.
Right.
Like what they did with Becky Lynch, or with Paige, like what they did with Charlotte, like what it seems like they're doing with Jericho. I don't like that. I love slow burns and that kind of stuff, but when you slow burn a turn, everything that happens during that slow burn becomes void. It becomes pointless, and it not only does it become void in the sense that it becomes pointless, but it also becomes an energy void because the audience has no clue who to cheer for in the matches then.
And I can certainly sympathize with that point. I think it has a lot of merit. I think, though, I would be more forgiving of that, though, dude, if the slow burn with the women at least had some substance. I feel like there is never any substance to these things, and again, we have it here. You know, it just that's what really bothers me.
You know what, John? I'm going to use what you're saying right now to piggyback off of that and get right into my second heat of the night. Brie Bella.
Oh, my God, yes.
Why did you not bring this up? Why do I have to be the one to bring this up?
Well, you seem like you had a lot more fire in your stomach than I did, so you got this one.
Brie Bella being not only pushed to the point that she beat Charlotte, who is the champion, who is, as much as I'm not a fan, supposed to be the best woman on the roster right now, given that she's holding the championship. Brie Bella, after months and months of losing every single match to the point that she literally got the nickname Jobber Bella, comes out and beats Charlotte just because now all of a sudden she's fighting for her injured sister. You have got to be shitting me right now. When that match ended, when Brie got the winning pinfall on Charlotte, and I heard the commentators say, well, that's got to put her in the discussion for the Divas Championship, I about turned my television off. And the only reason that I did not change the channel or just turn the TV off completely and start playing a freaking video game on my computer to pass my time while you watch the rest of Raw is because I knew we had to review this shit.
And you know what? I'm even going to say for both segments, both the Renee Young interview with Brie and then the subsequent matchup that fell out, I put in my notes for both of those segments the problem here. And just to address, the one thing, like why wasn't this in my heat of the night or the picks? I felt like it was beating a dead horse because we have said these same criticisms about the Bellas forever that it's nothing new.
But
except
John, it's not beating a dead horse when the horse keeps on getting up and trying to move.
I guess because, I even put here, the Bellas have always been lackluster baby faces. And the problem with segments like these, when you're trying to get Brie over and get her that sympathy, this match to me, the term that I use, it lacked any emotional resonance with me tonight because the Bellas have never hit the mark as baby faces. I will say with the Renee Young interview, I liked Charlotte's promo. I like that she was trying to get heat and saying, oh, it must really suck for Nikki to have to rely on the network, knowing that her best days are behind her and stuff like that. I like that. The problem is, though, you're working off of, I don't even want to say a weak babyface because that would imply that Brie has some sympathy whatsoever. I just feel like she's a horrible babyface in general.
Dude,
and then,
the Divas division has sunken far when Charlotte is the one carrying a program.
Yeah, and then to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying with the matchup, it's so funny too that you said she earned the name Jobber Bella because that's the exact name I have for her in my notes. I'm like, even if it was like one of those hiccup victories where, oh, she countered a move, she got her in the cradle, Charlotte's the freaking champion, and she just lost to somebody that's been jobbing for months, so how the hell does that make Charlotte look? And to me, because I know our policy on TWitWoW, we try and look for that silver lining even in the murkiest of clouds. The only thing that I could think of that made this okay, and I don't even want to say okay, I'll say makes the glass just a little bit easier to go down and kind of stifles that internal bleeding just a little bit, is the idea that if Brie is going to be in the conversation, to me it's either going to be a fatal four-way at Fastlane with her, Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte, or it's going to be some other matchup that keeps Sasha and Becky away from the championship until WrestleMania, because those three women being the most relevant belong on the biggest stage.
Yep.
That's really the only positive I can think of.
I had the exact same thought and I didn't even need to wait for the match. As soon as we got this Nikki Bella video package, and then Brie Bella got interviewed, and then Charlotte showed up in Brie's video segment, I thought to myself, okay, now we're going to do Charlotte versus Brie at Fastlane, and we're probably going to have Sasha versus Becky for number one contendership on the same show. So Charlotte beats Brie, we get some kind of a screwy finish, maybe a draw, maybe both their shoulders are on the ground during a pinfall, maybe a double count out for Sasha and Becky, and we get our triple threat at Mania. And that is the only redeeming quality that this has, is that it's going to be over in a month.
Yes, and that's exactly what I put, because I tried to keep perspective. But here's the thing now, which is even more interesting. Given the fallout of everything tonight, I would still say that Brie Bella versus Charlotte is on the table for Fastlane. But are we going to get a tag team match at Fastlane now? Sasha and Becky versus Naomi and Tamina. You know,
they might decide to do that, and when Sasha and Becky win that match, they'll just use that to put them in contendership.
Just thank goodness here that Brie Bella is only being built up as somewhat legitimate fodder for Charlotte's reign before Mania, because that is the only thing that is keeping me, or really that kept me from punching a hole through my computer screen, which is probably another reason why I didn't really make this a heat of the night, because there's no chance in hell that Brie is winning that Divas Championship. But god damn, I am sick of the Bellas always at the forefront. I actually thought we'd get a break with Nikki on the sidelines, and don't get me wrong, I'm elated for her that her surgery went well. But you're not good baby faces. That just doesn't change. You know, I'm not going to sit here and change my tune simply because somebody went through, a very, scary and serious surgery. And again, I'm happy for her, for Nikki, that she came out okay. You guys just have never been good at being baby faces. And Brie, every time she says Brie mode, I think my ears bleed. So, yeah, this was not fun at all. And, yeah, I'm just really glad we got to talk about that here. And the other heats of the night, let's keep rolling through.
I do. I have one more heat of the night, and it's a really, really big one. And I mean big in scope, not necessarily big in, impact.
Right, okay.
The entire second hour of Raw.
Okay, where did the second hour start and where did it end?
I'm gonna go through and read everything that happened in the second hour. Okay. During the second hour of Raw tonight, we had our Renee Young interview with Brie Bella.
Okay.
Which Charlotte cut off. The Usos versus Curtis Axel and Adam Rose.
Right.
Miz TV with AJ Styles. Brie
Right.
Bella versus Charlotte. Eric Rowan versus Big Show. And Titus O'Neil versus Tyler Breeze.
Now, can I just ask you something? Because you said the entire second hour, so you didn't even like Miz TV with AJ Styles, because I rather enjoyed that, or did you?
No, that was the redeeming quality of the third hour. But to me, when you talk about the interview with Brie that got interrupted by Charlotte, the Usos versus the Social Outcasts, Brie versus Charlotte, which led to the Brie victory, Rowan versus Big Show, Titus versus Breeze, where Titus won. And then you could even go even further than that and include Ziggler Owens, where frickin' Ziggler beat Kevin Owens. Are you kidding me right now?
That frustrated me because really, I mean, look, I enjoyed the matchup, and that really is a compliment to the workers, because normally I get tired when matches repeat over and over on TV.
John, can I say something real quick?
Sure.
Ever since last week when we had this AJ Jericho thing where we live reacted and the video blew up and stuff, I've been telling John, we gotta see if we can find something to live react to on every episode of Raw now, because of how well that video did, how much fun it was, the reception it got. It was awesome. And I was just waiting all night tonight, waiting for the match or the segment that I could be like, John, get ready. We're recording live reactions right now to this. And it just never came. It just never, like the closest thing that we could have reacted to was the main event. And even that had a god awful finish.
Well, we're gonna have a lot to talk. Yeah, you really hated this show. I thought I was gonna be like the downer, honestly, because I just really felt like I couldn't get into a lot of this show. But nice to see I'm not alone.
It was terrible. Like, here's my thing, dude. I could pick out something in every single segment that I didn't like. That's the thing. And you know, we start out with the whole Heyman thing opening up Raw, and that was solid. But why did Brock just kind of stand there and let Ambrose do his thing when he's supposed to be this killer? And sure, Heyman tried to retcon it later on in the night, but talking so much can only make up for a bad decision to such a degree, you know?
Yeah.
Then you've got Kalisto and Rusev, and you know what? This, I will say, this was a solid match, but what was the point of it? Why exactly are we getting Kalisto? Is this literally just like Del Rio trying to soften Kalisto up for their match?
I was thinking either that or just in the sense of Del Rio just keeps like throwing these criticisms Kalisto's way, but Kalisto keeps throwing it back.
And that was another thing that I hated. They basically, now I'm not going to go full on buried, but they really tried to discredit Kalisto on commentary. And you and I have always said, when you are a heel, you do not insult your opponent, because if you beat them, who cares? You beat some scrub. And if they beat you, haha, you lost to a scrub. Del Rio was going so far out of his way to discredit Kalisto on commentary tonight. If he does manage to beat him on the Fastlane pay-per-view, no one's going to care, because Kalisto's irrelevant at this point.
Exactly. I really wish they would learn that, because I mean, how, and really for the fans, because it's not just the performers, but you gotta have the fans. Why the hell should I get excited about a rematch if this guy is allegedly a joke? You know, like, I just think it's bad all around. So again, I'm totally picking up what you're laying down, man.
Right. And another big thing, I brought up the insulting of our intelligence earlier. This whole idea that they're trying to tease, oh, are Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns going to turn on each other and implode? No, they're not. Nobody thinks that they're actually going to turn on each other. Nobody in their right mind saw this segment with Stephanie McMahon in her office and thought to themselves, oh my God, they're actually going to break Roman and Dean up in the main event tonight. Nobody.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. I would, and let me just qualify, I do think there's a difference between tension and full-on breakup. I would have loved if the main event, New Day actually went over because of some miscue between Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, which I think would be huge.
Of course they're not going to, though.
And of course they're not going to. But see, and I think that's what kind of, it's weird for me, right? Because one of the big things that I really enjoyed about this Raw, and I'll probably get into it more specifically when we get into our formal review, which is actually feeling like the formal review. It's just a lot of us taking turns talking about what was bad. I like that Dean Ambrose got shine tonight. I really did. I don't like, though, that there still isn't even any tension, which, again, there's a difference between tension and full-on breakup. Apparently WWE, though, doesn't know that difference. Because I think
and that's the thing.
Like,
during this whole segment in Stephanie's office, she was talking to them and cutting this serious promo, and both Ambrose and Roman had smiles on their faces. They were, like, chuckling, like, ha, 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 she's trying to break us up. We see what she's doing. She's stupid. We're smarter than that. Like, okay, well, if that's the case, then why is this segment even happening? Why is this even necessary? This is achieving literally nothing.
Right, and again, I could have forgiven, like, their reaction and everything, and then just think, oh, we're on to Stephanie, you know, Stephanie is this evil, vile woman, like, we know that she has malevolent intentions and this and that. Just about, all it would have taken was a spot in the matchup where Roman Reigns is going for a spear and he accidentally hits Dean Ambrose. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, he goes to spear like a Kofi. Kofi jumps out of the way. We know he's a very athletic, agile guy. It wouldn't be like we wouldn't have to suspend our disbelief too much to believe that he could get out of the way of a spear. And then Reigns hits to Ambrose. Big E comes in and tosses Reigns out. Kofi pins Ambrose. 1, 2, 3. It's over.
Yeah, and then you have them argue, but I wouldn't have them implode to fists or anything, because then Brock's music would interrupt exactly like you had it.
Right.
And then, you know, what have you.
I hadn't even thought of that, honestly, because, like, I just, at this point, I'm so beaten down that I fully expected Reigns and Ambrose to win with no angle, no tension, no nothing, just baby faces over, and we give the crowd a good way to go home.
And that's sad because, I think there was a time, and I don't want to like date myself or sound like an old timer, but I do feel like there was a time where you would have gotten that angle and you would have gotten that nuance. I think WWE has gotten to a point, and it was really illuminated to me tonight with this whole angle, where they really feel like you have to commit to either one extreme or the other. Either they stay together through thick and thin, or they implode at the first sign of conflict. It doesn't
because
have
they're
to be that way.
incapable of subtlety. How many times have I said that on TWitWoW?
And yeah, you've said it multiple times on this show, and I think it really came to dozens of times on this show, and it really came to the forefront tonight. And I really think that's a shame, because I think they missed an opportunity. I want to get into this match, dude, because on paper, this match seems like it could be a lot of fun. But I think the emotional resonance, as I said earlier with the Bellas and stuff, and the story in general, is really lacking behind. You've got the in-ring product down already, just with the names on paper. You need the story, though, because it's not just enough of, oh my God, the brothers versus the Beast. I mean, yeah, it's good for marketing, but there's only so many times where, they're going up against Brock Lesnar is going to be a compelling story to me. I love Brock, but good God, you can't rely on that forever.
Right. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say here in this first segment?
Well, I only got like a quarter of the way done with my rundown of this show and how there's something wrong with everything on it.
Yeah.
So after this Gina Roman and Stephanie thing, we had the Nikki Bella injury update. I don't care. I mean, good for her. Surgery was successful. That's great. But she's not going to be around for 3 months. Where's our Seth Rollins injury update? Where's our Cesaro injury update? Seriously, show me people that you've actually given me reason to care about rather than Nikki Bella, who everyone was supposed to hate before she left.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. Yeah, it's like you left as a heel. I mean, your whole big thing was, I'm the longest reigning Divas champion, which was a heelish thing to, celebrate. And then, you went out, dropping the belt, but still as a heel.
Right.
Yeah, it just really makes
Nikki
no
Bella
sense.
didn't have, like, a magical face turn just because she's no longer the champion. I still don't like her character.
I mean, and I guess maybe people listening could say, well, Seth Rollins is also a heel, but the thing is, like, he was the world champion, Like, he was, like, this big time.
And he never lost the title, too.
And he never lost the title.
And plus, like, here's my thing. No offense intended here for Nikki Bella, because obviously I do respect what she does for the company and in the ring and stuff. But Seth Rollins was literally the man for a long time. He was your main event. He was your champion for, almost 7 or 8 months when he got injured. Nikki Bella was the Divas champion. I think the Divas Championship should be taken more seriously, but the WWE has never given me reason to care about the Divas Championship as much as they've given me reason to care about the World Championship. So when you are putting a highlight on Nikki Bella and neglecting to show people like Rollins, like Cesaro, who is a major fan favorite, and even John Cena. John Cena hasn't gotten any kind of a big injury update segment like this. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it's cool that you want to highlight, the women that are prominent in your division, but I think at the same time, when you don't highlight anybody else that's a major part of your product, it comes off less as, oh, look at us, we're mindful of everybody, more than it does, we don't have our priorities straight.
Well, and not only that, but then not only are they giving us this Nikki Bella injury update, but then they're using the fact that she is injured to try and get the fans behind Brie. And first of all, you and I both agree the Bellas are awful as baby faces. Second of all, Brie Bella is awful in the ring. Third of all, I've already discussed how terrible it is that they had her as Jobber Bella beating the world champion or the Divas champion. So I'm going to just not even touch on that again. And now we're giving Brie Bella a push basically because her sister is hurt and they want to capitalize on that.
Right.
I'm not done. So then the Usos versus the Social Outcasts. First of all, you guys know I can't stand the Usos. They need to just flat out not be on TV every week. I'm not saying take them off TV completely, but the fact that they're on every single show does not make it any easier to like them. But that's not even the worst part about this segment, because the Social Outcasts come out, hey, where's Bo? First of all, why bring attention to it? And second of all, why not just say the truth? Oh, he had a family emergency, that's why he's not here. No, they come up with this excuse that he is in the studio mixing beats.
Yeah, what really bothered me about this, I enjoyed the pre-match promo, it was what it was. I think what I didn't like, and you know what, it's on me, I take full responsibility for this one, I really enjoyed how the Social Outcasts started out. You know, it's this group of guys that don't really get a lot of TV time, but they have a social media presence, or at least they're more active on there than they are on TV. They come together, and the first thing they do is bring the fight to the Wyatt family. I'm like, man, that's really cool, because you got this collection of guys that are viewed as jokes or whatever, but here they are bringing the fight to just the biggest dogs in the yard, right? And it didn't take any time at all for them to, you know, just be pawn to king for, you know, jobber faction kind of team.
It's 4MB.
Yeah. You beg pardon?
It's 4MB.
It's 4MB, yeah, exactly. And that to me is so disappointing because, again, I shouldn't have expected anything else, and that is on me. But I think when you start out in a different direction, and they were baby faces too when they started out.
Exactly, and now they're heels jobbing to the Usos. And it's so funny too because when the Usos came out, I was all excited. I was like, oh man, these guys are going to get fed to the Wyatt family, aren't they? But no, it's the Social Outcasts. So not only was I disappointed because I didn't get to see the Wyatt family in that moment. Obviously, I saw them later on in the night, but, you know, when you're anticipating something like that, you want it now. But then, because not only was it just because I wanted to see the Wyatts, but also because now we went from the Usos getting killed by a powerful team to the Usos beating a lesser team.
Exactly, and the funny thing was, and maybe this is just my bias, because, you know, I've tired of the Usos as well, and I used to be, you know, big on these guys, but overexposure has killed them for me.
Oh, and that's another thing, too. I do want to say, I was not on Reddit at all tonight. Actually, I lie. I was on Reddit, but I was not on the Squared Circle subreddit. I was on the Bernie Sanders for President subreddit, watching the Iowa caucus results come in as Raw was on. So, for those of you that are going to try and say, oh, Ashton doesn't like Raw anymore because he's on Reddit too much and they're all negative over there, wasn't even in the discussion thread. I just could not stand this show.
Well, yeah, and that's certainly fair enough. I was just going to say, though, about this matchup, I like the tag team work between Curtis Axel and Adam Rose. Yeah. That was just so funny to me. Like, I liked how they were working together. I liked how they were cutting the ring in half. I liked the work they did, and yet they're the job
really
for comedy
like
team.
Adam Rose, man. He's so good.
Dude, those clotheslines in the corner, those slices as he's calling NXT.
That's the exact spot that I was thinking of when I said that I like him so much. Like, he is so underrated, but he's a jobber, so what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, exactly. So, do you want to keep running down? Because next year, my notes is Miz TV.
I'll even say Miz TV with AJ Styles was a great segment, but what I hate about it, AJ Styles has been on WWE television 4 times now. He's hit the Styles Clash once.
Yeah, you know, that is a bit peculiar, though. I will say, you know, because it's probably one of the most positive segments on this show for the both of us. You know, Miz even did fine here, because I really liked how
when we actually get to covering all these segments, I feel like I have to stop you because you're like reviewing the segments while I'm just trying to run down all the crappy stuff that happened in them, and we haven't actually gotten to a review yet. But yeah, the Miz, I'll give Miz credit when we get to that segment. He did a great job tonight, but the thing that with this segment, it was a good segment, but my problem is the opportunity cost. If you're going to have AJ Styles on a segment, why would you not put him in another match? Why would you put him on Miz? Even if you want to do, and here's the thing, we had another match later on the night, Titus O'Neil beat Tyler Breeze. I don't even need to tell you why I hate the fact that this match happened and that O'Neil won, because everyone knows that I can't stand Titus O'Neil. I think it's stupid that they're pushing him. And the fact that he beat Breeze, who is, of course, another NXT star, grinds my gears. So why could we not do AJ Styles versus Tyler Breeze if you had to job Breeze out to someone and then let O'Neil pin the Miz? Why couldn't we do that?
You know, I don't know. I think the one thing that bothered me about Miz TV, even though I guess it wasn't so bad because of what we got later.
Save your Miz TV for SmackDown, but let AJ hit the Clash on a freaking live show for once.
Yeah, I don't know when they're planning on letting him finally do that, man. Because I can't even say, oh, well, WWE's probably saving it for something. Because, I mean, come on. Are they really that forward-thinking? I don't think so.
No, of course not. They weren't. Well, and that's the thing. If they were saving it for something, we wouldn't have seen it last week on SmackDown.
Exactly, against Curtis Axel of all people.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think my only problem with the Miz TV thing, since we are focusing on the negative, I was kind of hoping Chris Jericho would interrupt here. Again, I'm still forgiving of that, though.
Anything to make this more interesting, but what it was basically just a heat segment to get, you know, heat on Miz and get the crowd more behind AJ, which, you know what, I'm not going to complain about that, but you could have done it in a better way.
Right.
So then we get Brie and Charlotte, which you already know I hated. Then we got Rowan Big Show, where Big Show basically squashed one of the members of the Wyatt family. Even if it was the weakest member of the family, the fact that the Big Show can run roughshod through one guy like this out of the 4, is really just sad for the Wyatt family. Like, is this one of those cases where they're going to build them up as like each individual member isn't that great, but when they're all together, they're unstoppable? Because that kind of feels like the Shield, does it not?
It does a little bit, yeah. And I really
And
just
then of
seeing
course we got the post-match beatdown, and that was Shield-esque because it was 3-on-1, and it involved a 3-man beatdown and then like a triple team finisher style thing. But rather than doing a power bomb, they did sort of like the Disciples of Death finisher onto the Big Show, onto the steel steps.
I think what I loved about this too, because I did enjoy the beatdown. I thought that was fun. Big Show making such
but we're
quick
still
work
doing Eric Rowan versus the Big Show and having the Big Show beat him in 30 seconds with a choke slam of all things.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it like that, because I got nightmarish flashbacks to their first feud when Rowan was babyface, because it just made me cringe. But I think what was funny is, like, if you look at SmackDown, and again, this is like the sort of continuity, even though I guess maybe I can't fault them too much for this. You have on SmackDown, Ambrose, Reigns, Jericho, and Big Show standing tall. Nobody had Big Show's back tonight. Not even Jericho, who could have had his back because he was clearly on the show. I can understand Ambrose and Reigns. They're preoccupied with Brock Lesnar and the chance of WrestleMania. Big Show just got beat down. Nobody came out to help him, which I thought was hilarious. No wonder this guy turns heel and flip-flops every goddamn year. That was just something else, I guess. And then
so then we had O'Neal and Breeze, which I already said. Obviously, I can't stand what they did here. Triple H emasculating Brock Lesnar for not murdering Dean Ambrose earlier on in the night. Now, obviously, I definitely disagree with him not murdering Dean Ambrose earlier on in the night, but then you have Triple H come in and emasculate Brock. Why didn't Brock murder Triple H right then and there?
Oh, and see, to me, I almost like that he played it cool, and I even put that here. I think the idea that we expect Brock to murder everybody, I like that he can kind of rein it in. So I didn't have a problem with that. I don't know, the whole Brock Lesnar usage, I'll probably have more to say about it when we formally get into our review, but I think
then Dolph Ziggler pins Kevin Owens, awful. Then we get a Mark Henry. Is this for retirement or just Hall of Fame or what?
This is Black History Month. So.
Oh, well, that's even worse because now you're pandering.
Right.
I thought that this was like a Hall of Fame thing. Like,
no,
first of all, he obviously deserves it. Second of all, it's Texas, so duh. Third of all, put Mark Henry in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Or I mean, if he's not even retired yet, don't do this kind of thing as if he is retired, because I thought he was retiring from this.
Right.
Anyway, so then we get Sasha and Becky. Sasha cuts a competent pre-match promo, and then Bad comes out to insult all of our intelligence and acts like they're not going to turn heel on Sasha.
Yep.
So then we get a Renee Young interview with Chris Jericho, and Jericho talks up AJ Styles, but then it basically becomes a plug to watch SmackDown.
Which I honestly didn't mind, because I think it actually makes SmackDown feel more important, which they're trying to do. It's a concerted effort with them being on the USA Network. But again, I almost would have preferred this, like, being on Miz TV first, and then I guess that
Why does Jericho have to have anything to do with this, though? Why couldn't she have interviewed AJ and been like, AJ, we just saw you beat the crap out of the Miz. What do you have to say for yourself? And then AJ says, I just got done talking to, maybe Triple H, maybe Stephanie, whoever, and I've got a match with him on Thursday, and I'm going to show him just how much I really don't need him around me. Like something.
Right.
Why did Jericho have to be involved in this?
I think I can see what you're getting at. You feel like they're not really capitalizing on the fact that you have AJ Styles on your freaking roster.
You have AJ Styles on your freaking roster, and you're using him in all of the wrong ways. This horrifies me for Nakamura and Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the writing I think was kind of on the wall when Sting, of all people, got brought in. I don't know why I expected any better for AJ.
So we get the Golden Truth segment, and is it just me, or is R-Truth kind of getting really kind of, like toeing the homophobic waters here?
Yeah, I'm already starting to lose interest in these segments, which is a shame because I was initially very hyped about Golden Truth. I even put in my notes here, let's get the ball rolling soon. Let's just get Golden Truth versus Social Outcast of the Fastlane pre-show signed already, and let's just get it on the road because I'm really starting to tire of these segments, honestly.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, this was just brutal to me. So then, of course, we close with New Day versus Roman and Ambrose, and the finish is Roman Reigns miraculously recovering from being slammed on the announce table to hit a Superman punch on Big E.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that I've gotten all of that off my chest, let's actually review the show.
All right, let's see what we've got to review, guys. Our Monday Night Raw review. We start out with Paul Heyman and the Beast incarnate Brock Lesnar. Me personally, I loved this opening segment. Heyman hitting all the talking points. Start out with the Wyatt family screwing Brock Lesnar out of the Rumble. He says, there will be a time and a place that Lesnar will exact his revenge, but the focus shifts, of course, to Fastlane and the Triple Threat. Heyman calls it the Brothers versus the Beast, and Brock Lesnar. He says that Brock Lesnar will conquer Fastlane. He will go to WrestleMania. He will beat Triple H, and he will regain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Dean Ambrose comes out. I love that he interrupted Brock Lesnar. See, actually, I'll come out and say right now, the opening segment, I almost feel like was my segment of the night, because I really loved it.
See, and my segment of the night would probably be Miz TV.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I think it was either that one or Miz TV that were just the best segments on this show, because Ambrose is pretty much saying, I do respect you, Brock, and, do I want to fight you? Well, obviously not. I don't know who would, but the fact is, I will do anything to get WrestleMania. I'm going to drag my broken body to WrestleMania, and I love the conviction and the passion he spoke with, but the greatest strength to me of this segment isn't what it did have, it's what it didn't have. I love that Roman Reigns wasn't anywhere near this segment.
Yes, that was... Dude, the fact that Roman played very much a supporting role on this show was probably one of my biggest highlights of the show.
Completely agree with you, because I know you, Dean Ambrose Mark from day one I'm talking to here, and you know how much I've spoken positively about Ambrose as a babyface lately. I wanted him to have a show like this. Was it perfect? By no means, no. Obviously there were things they could have done better, but I love that he got to have this encounter with Brock Lesnar. And dude, you should have seen me. My body was so tense because as Dean was leaving, I was just waiting for Roman's music to hit and for him to get his time. And I would have accepted it, but I would have kind of grown, because it's like, well, why can't we just have the focus on Dean for once? And when they cut away from that segment and they went to commercial, I'm like, yes. That is how you do it. That's how you make Dean seem important, by letting him have that spotlight without even remotely Roman Reigns getting involved. So I really, really appreciated that Dean getting face-to-face with Brock Lesnar, able to walk out and have that confidence. Brock laughs him off, because I don't think Brock takes Dean seriously. That's why I think he didn't murder him, so it gives Dean as a babyface something to prove, especially after Brock manhandled him at the end of the night, which we'll get to. But yeah, I love that these two were able to have their confrontation without Roman Reigns having to butt in and get his nose in it, because yeah, Dean deserves to be spotlighted just as much as the other 2/3 of this main event, and I'm glad that for once WWE recognized that fact.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. I had a lot negative to say about this show, but this was one thing that they definitely got right. They kind of pulled back on the idea that the show revolves around Roman.
Yeah.
Because I think for the last 2 or maybe even 3 weeks, I've mentioned in either my heat of the night or my nitpick that it feels like the show revolves too much around Roman. And tonight, that, for as many heats of the night as I did have, that wasn't one of them.
Completely agree, man. You have anything you want to say about this, or can we move right along?
Move right along. Up next, we had Kalisto versus Rusev with Alberto Del Rio on commentary. Del Rio on commentary was by far the worst part of this, although I will say I did appreciate him kind of sticking it to the commentators.
Yeah, that's always nice. It's always nice.
But the idea that he basically, he didn't really fully bury Kalisto, but he was trying. He had the shovel out and he was digging, brother.
Yeah, full force. I will say, as far as the performers themselves go, I felt like they put on a quality matchup with some really entertaining spots. I mean, 2 that stuck out in my mind in my notes. I mean, Rusev nailed a beautiful swing bottom at one point.
Yeah,
and of course,
that was his finisher in NXT, wasn't it?
I believe it was either that or was that Samoan drop like he used to do, but I think it was a swing bottom, actually. There was another moment Kalisto tried vaulting over the ropes, but he eats a super kick from Rusev, which I liked. Of course, Kalisto's finishing sequence where he's able to, avert Rusev's slam, get on the announce table and do a Hurricane Rana, sending Rusev into the barricade. I thought that was cool. And I think doing a count-out victory, even though I'm not really a big fan of when matches finish that way, I can forgive it because of the people involved, and I think it protects Rusev while also making Kalisto seem like, oh, look, he had enough heart and he got it out long enough to find a way to win. I do wish, though, that Del Rio and others would just concede, he's United States champion for a reason. He is a great athlete. It's not that freaking hard. But yeah, entertaining matchup between these two guys.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, and I don't know, with Kalisto being the U.S. champ, they could have done a really good job of keeping it credible and kind of keeping it where, if Cena would come back to challenge Kalisto, the fans would be like, I don't know, man, Kalisto's been on a roll. I don't know if John's got it in him. But now when John comes back, the U.S. title is his.
Yeah, that's really what it feels like. I agree, because I would have loved a scenario where you had John Cena versus Kalisto. Because imagine just being in the ring with John Cena, what that does for the stock of Kalisto. But he doesn't look like he, by the sound of it and by the way people talk about him, it doesn't seem like he belongs there in the first place. And I think that's wrong. Because I think Kalisto deserves better than that. You and I, in past TWitWoWs, guys, go back and listen to them. We've given our thoughts on Kalisto's potential as a babyface. If anybody can't see it, get a vision test is pretty much what I have to say about that. And apparently WWE needs one more than anybody. So with that said, next segment, we have Stephanie McMahon, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns. It's pretty much the segment, Ashton, to your point, where Stephanie tries to stoke the flames of tension between Ambrose and Roman Reigns. But, of course, they laugh it off, saying, like, it's not going to happen. They even make a joke of it, like Ambrose saying, well, I'm not Roman Reigns' sidekick. If anything, he's my sidekick, but in a jovial, joking manner. So,
right.
Yeah, completely Stephanie's attempts, completely moot. Moving right along, Renee Young and Brie Bella interview.
Yeah.
We talk that to death. I ain't even touching that anymore with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Next matchup, Usos and Curtis Axel and Roman Reigns. Usos go over. That's really all you need to know here. Curtis Axel and Adam Rose, I love their tag team fundamentals. I love how they worked as a team, but it doesn't freaking matter.
Lillian Garcia was on such a bad roll in this match because not only did she do the whole Usos or Grammy Award winners, but she also announced accompanied by Adam Rose, Curtis Axel, and Heath Slater, implying Axel and Slater were going to be in the match when it was Axel and Rose.
Yeah, and you know what? That was a bunch initially in my notes because I believed her, and I guess I never went back and corrected it. But yeah, it was Axel and Rose. Poor Lillian can never really catch a break.
Axel Rose needs to be their team name. It's that simple.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? If Social Outcast, depending on the longevity of this team, I would hope that Curtis Axel and Adam Rose would stay together because their personalities, Curtis Axel being the straight man and Adam Rose being on another freaking planet, just work so well. And again, I love their in-ring work here. It's just a shame that you get fed to the Usos because there is no tag team division. There, I said it. There is no freaking tag team division on the main roster. It's Usos and everybody else, and New Day, to be fair, because they're amazing, and I have good things to say about them later on in the night. Miz TV with AJ Styles.
This was great.
This was great, yes. I loved how Miz, I think, and I shouldn't say for once got it right because I've enjoyed Miz more, but it really isn't on and off kind of thing.
He was on tonight.
He was on tonight. Exactly, Ashton, exactly. I love how he built AJ up, and really, I'm not just saying up like, oh, he's great. No, he really dug in there. He plundered his hands in the dirt, and he told the story of AJ Styles, which really surprised me.
He even brought up AJ Styles' high school years. I feel like The Miz did a quick trip through Wikipedia before he cut this promo because he knew, I almost felt like being like, well, I didn't know The Miz was such a fanboy of AJ Styles because it seems like he had been following him for years.
Yeah, and then I love how Miz, and here's the thing, and I don't say this to be, oh, ha-ha, sadistic John, because I know I have those streaks, but that's not what I mean here. I love how he brought up Daniel Bryan. I just wish he would have gone for the more visceral shot when relating it back to AJ. You all loved it. He was trying to make the parallel between Daniel Bryan and AJ. Yeah. I wish he would have gone for the full blow. Well, what happened to Daniel Bryan? Where is Daniel Bryan? Same thing's going to happen. AJ's going to flame out quicker than he came in, or just something like that. Which, to be fair, I think he did kind of say that to effect, but it didn't have enough of an emotional punch for me. It was there, but it could have been more, I think is my point. But I really did like what Miz did here. Just really bringing AJ down.
If you really feel like you need to kind of test just to see how effective the Miz was tonight, listen to the crowd when he announces AJ Styles is coming out, AJ's music hits, and he makes his entrance, compared to when the Miz finally finishes his promo and AJ attacks him. The Miz single-handedly got this completely casual crowd into AJ Styles.
Yeah. I'll say this, guys, and I love that you said it the way you did, casual crowd over with AJ Styles. If for one night, and I know me and Ashton over the years, you know, we've given, you know, Miz a lot, but if for one night it has to stand, Miz played a great heel here, and he did what a heel's supposed to do. He really did his job from point A to point B, and yeah. You know, kudos to him, because I honestly didn't know if he had it in him, but he did, because by the end, when AJ just unloads on him, and he's like, who's a joke now? And Miz is just scurrying away. And I love how Miz sold the beatdown, too. Even from the selling of the beatdown, he did great. Because he's just lying on the floor. He's holding his hand to his head.
He didn't even stand up. Like, he crawled to the top of the ramp. And even when AJ was just staring him down while he was at the top of the ramp, he was still lying down, selling the beatdown.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean,
I was really impressed how out of his way Miz went for AJ Styles. You know, that's what a heel freaking does. And I never thought I'd say this, but you know what? I'm going to say it, hyperbole or not. Alberto Del Rio could have taken notes from The Miz tonight, because that's how you put a babyface over.
Yep.
That's how you make them seem like something. So there you go. I freaking love this. Definitely, again, between that and the opening segment for me personally, two of the best segments of the night. And Ashton, this segment actually edged out the opening segment for you, so this was your segment of the night.
Yeah.
Completely antithetical to this, though, because we get our Brie Bella versus Charlotte matchup. Yeah, again, we already talked enough about that. Brie Bella's probably going to get a title shot at Fastlane. God help us all. Next matchup.
Does anybody even want to see this?
No, actually, no, I'm not even going to try and say whatever. No, I don't want to see it. I'm only tolerating it. That's what I was trying to say earlier, because I'm really hoping we get the good thing that we're all envisioning at WrestleMania. Yeah. But then again, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't even know if I should put a lot of stock in that either, because it's WWE and it's women, and obviously. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. Big Show versus Eric Rowan. Honestly, Ashton, I hate to keep buzzing through these, but I really don't have anything to say. Do you have anything to say about this? Because
No, I mean, the beatdown was solid, but the match itself was garbage, and it's stupid that the Big Show can single-handedly just completely squash one of the members of the Wyatt family, even if it was sort of the weak link of the family.
Exactly. Like, I really have nothing to add to it. Moving on. Titus O'Neil versus Tyler Breeze. I pretty much echoed all your sentiments in my notes. I don't know why Titus O'Neil is getting a mini push. The best thing I took out of this matchup.
Dude, I think you can even take the word mini out of that. He's just straight up getting pushed, and I have no idea why.
I don't either. I mean, again, just trying to extrapolate any positive I can. I appreciated the in-ring psychology Breeze tried to implement in this match, working over the leg of Titus. Didn't amount to anything, because he still got beat, but at least he tried to add some nuance to the matchup of, you know, just chopping the big man down. Honestly, I don't think he will, because my vote is still Strowman, because I really loved your idea of Braun Strowman winning the armbar, but I'm almost thinking Titus has to be a candidate for this. I'm really getting scared what this push is going to culminate into, because I don't think he's going to win a title. Royal Rumble's already passed, and obviously he wasn't going to win that as well, so what the hell's left? You know, so I'm really getting scared what this push is going to lead into. I'm not a fan of Titus either, and even if I wasn't a fan, I still can't get past the fact this guy's 38 years old, and I really don't know what kind of mileage you can get out of him, but I already said that last week. Moving on, Brock Lesnar, Triple H. Triple H pretty much asking, has Suplex City gotten soft? Lesnar pretty much saying, well, we'll find out at WrestleMania, won't we? And you know what? I think the reason why I like this is that, you know what? He's Brock fucking Lesnar. Nobody gets to tell this man when he gets to brutalize somebody or beat them down. He does it on his own terms. He knows what he's doing. He's the beast, not Triple H, not Dean Ambrose, not Roman Reigns. So I think I like that Lesnar showed restraint, because it said, hey, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, I'm always in control here. Don't you forget that. So I think that's why I was cool with Brock Lesnar's really his inaction, at least up until the closing segment tonight. Because to me, that's him retaining his power and not giving it up to people trying to goad him to do something. So I think I like that, because it shows that he's not just a beast, he's a sentient beast. You know, he's not some Neanderthal. With that said, I'm guessing you don't have anything else you want to say about that segment?
No, I don't think so. Let's just move on.
All right, Kevin Owens versus Dolph Ziggler. Again, a big compliment I could give to this match. You would have thought that I would have tired of it by now, but I had fun with it. I thought that they had great spots. I loved Kevin Owens' counter to the Dolph show-off DDT on the outside. Ziggler's famouser on the outside. The two super kick exchanges. It's funny, because I actually thought the finish would come down to the super kick, because they were playing it up on commentary, but it didn't. It actually came to a pop-up powerbomb counter into a zigzag. But my big thing about this was, as much fun as I had, I again have to agree with Ashton, guys. What I hated about it was, again, it highlighted that 50-50 booking that I know him and I both hate. And to me, nothing against Dolph. I am a fan of the guy. I appreciate his work. But anybody who has listened to this show knows how much I love Kevin Owens and knows how much I believe in him as a heel. He should be taking priority right now, especially, and I just thought of this, and I'm glad I did because it almost escaped my mind. If the rumors were true that whenever AJ Styles wraps up his stuff with Jericho, like that's the feud, why would you have Dolph beat him here and these guys have a teeter-totter program? You should be making Owens as dominant as possible if AJ Styles is in his future. So either the rumors are false or they are true and WWE's just doing a piss poor job, and the scary thing is both possibilities are equally believable in my eyes. So that's that. Mark Henry Black History Month video. Like Ashton said, it's pandering. I will say I thought it was a well-done video, but it should have been, for a greater purpose, Hall of Fame induction, whatever. Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch. Obviously, pre-match promo, meh, beatdown. Everybody saw it coming.
Can I just say, before we talk about this, regarding Owens and Ziggler, I know that there are going to be a lot of people that say, oh, well, you're just angry because the guy you wanted to win didn't win. And you know what? I'm not even going to try and dispute that because obviously John and I both think that Owens should have beaten Ziggler. But to me, what it really comes down to is, what exactly did this win do for Dolph Ziggler's career?
Yeah, I think
you need to look at the opportunity cost, because to me, Ziggler winning has so much less impact than Owens losing. Because Kevin Owens is supposed to be, now obviously the WWE might disagree with me here, but Kevin Owens is supposed to be a prize fighter. Prize fighters are worthless if they don't win. His entire gimmick relies on him winning. So the fact that you have him lose to Ziggler here, not only does it not make sense, but it hurts the Owens character. And Ziggler losing to Owens would not have hurt anybody, and it would have kept the Owens character intact.
I mean, I completely agree with everything you just said. I really have nothing to add. I just feel like, yes, I'm not going to try and deny that there is a favoritism there. I freaking love Kevin Owens, but I think we also have to look at, and again, that's why I mentioned the potential AJ program. You have to look into the future. You have to. Because to me, Kevin Owens, whether it's AJ or not, he is, regardless, going to be doing bigger and better things than Dolph Ziggler, because I just think they're on different positions on the card. I would really like to see a heel get consistently built up. And that's why I mentioned 50-50 booking, because you could have put any heel in here. If it was Bray Wyatt, I'd be saying the same thing. Any heel. You've got to build people up. And if you were going to give this win to Dolph, you might as well give him the win to him the week prior, and that would have even made more sense because Kevin Owens just came off of a last man standing match and being in the Royal Rumble match. So, I don't know. It's just really confounding to me. But regardless, back to Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. I actually like that this match had an inconclusive finish again, because I actually had my friend James tell me that he thought that these two were competing too much on TV and that this should be a pay-per-view matchup. I agree, but I think they get away with it by not having a definitive finish on TV. I'd love to see these women have a pay-per-view matchup where they can really settle it once and for all and get that definitive finish. So I do think that'll occur, so that's why I can forgive it. And, Becky Lynch and Sasha battling back, Naomi and Tamina, was fine. It's just, I hate the idea again. Team Bad couldn't even break up amicably, and it just reinforces that stereotype that JBL likes to tell and WWE likes us to believe, through Total Divas and everything, all women hate each other. So, way to be progressive, guys.
I'm telling you, dude, I've said this on TWitWoW before. The WWE is going to portray women that way as long as Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn are at the top of the pyramid, because that is the way that they perceive women.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you even had somebody recently, I don't know if it was like a Rolling Stone article or what, but called WWE out on their sexism, and they had to release a formal statement. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
I thought that was so interesting. Yeah, because they talked about Ric Flair kissing Becky Lynch, which made a lot of people uncomfortable, which I'll say first and foremost, good, because I hated it too. And other things, I think along these lines. And they're like, yeah, they still don't really know how to treat women on their main roster product. And WWE gave out that, that response of, heroes and villains and what the company represents, like they have 1,000 times. And, you wonder, guys, well, maybe some of you wonder why we laud Lucha Underground so much. This is one of the reasons why. They are so progressive with their women. They would never do anything like this. And if they would, I guarantee you would have greater narrative strength than what this does. Guaranteed.
Exactly. And that's another big problem that I wanted to point out about this segment. You know what? Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch, in a vacuum, are the two best in-ring performers that the WWE has to offer right now. But this is the second or maybe even third time now that they've stepped in the ring on the main roster with absolutely no story whatsoever, and the crowd could not give a shit.
Exactly.
And the worst part is, not only do they not have a story now, but now they're both supposed to be baby faces. So we got the faintest of faint, let's go Sasha, let's go Becky dueling chants, but even that could not make this match seem like the crowd was into it.
I mean, again, this just proves you can have two great in-ring workers. If you don't have anything that's emotionally compelling or that just draws me on that higher level, it's not going to matter. I mean, NXT understood that when these two got in the ring together, because it was all about Becky having her moment in the sun and Sasha being such a great and legitimate NXT Women's Champion. That was enough. I'm not asking for a story with all these twists and turns. I actually prefer, and I've said this so many times on TWitWoW, especially for those of you that have been listening to us from the beginning, I actually prefer straightforward stories. I'm not asking for anything too complex, but you don't even give me that. You just give me, oh, these two are in the ring, and you like these people, right? Well, yeah, but I'd like a little bit more, I don't know, man. It's just really frustrating, especially when you know that these two women are amazing at what they do, and they deserve better. And I could actually say that about a lot of the talents on the show that came from NXT. They deserve better. Moving on, Renee Young and Chris Jericho, we already kind of talked about that. I enjoyed Jericho's work here. I just think it was kind of misplaced. I would have loved to have seen him interrupt on Miz TV. And then I liked your suggestion that AJ would have the follow-up interview, with Renee about the whole Miz thing and addressing Jericho. But regardless, I like that Jericho did kind of instill interest for SmackDown, because it's kind of a promise of storyline progression. Maybe even Jericho will turn heel. We don't know. Segment 8, Golden Truth. Not really much to say here. I feel like these segments honestly get weaker and weaker with each passing week. I just want them to team up. And again, I think their first matchup straight away will be Social Outcasts at the Fastlane pre-show. We shall see about that. And then our main event.
It might even be the Dudleys, dude.
Yeah, it may even be the Dudleys. You're right. I mean, that they've really fallen so far down wouldn't surprise me at all. Even though that, to me, honestly, if you were going to use the Dudleys, if they're not going to be champions, they should at least be the gatekeepers to the champions. I mean, it's the freaking Dudleys, but I digress. Main event time, Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns versus the New Day. Hallelujah for the New Day, because my God, are they still the best thing on this show.
They really are. They were phenomenal cutting their pre-match promo. I love that they pointed out a kid in the crowd, and the kid had a freaking Bullet Club shirt on, too.
Yeah, and can I just...
Support New Japan, people, not this garbage.
Yeah, exactly. And can I just say, too, because, you said, this is garbage, and I agree, but that these guys stand out. New Day deserved to be in the main event. And that was honestly the one thing that really did put a smile on my face, to know that these guys got the main event spot, to know that this gimmick has gotten them so far that, and I know this is the first time they've been the main event on Raw, but the idea that they've been there more than once, to me, is a comfort. It is, to me, something worth celebrating, because they are fantastic. They are so freaking good at what they do, and they deserve it. Love the pre-match promo. Again, to your point, they pointed out a kid in the crowd. They shamed The Rock again. I loved how they pretty much didn't even really acknowledge Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose in a way, because they referred to Roman as The Rock's cousin, and then Dean Ambrose, The Rock's cousin's friend. And, I like that. Yep. And then they even made a little hint at, fan fiction between Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, which, knowing the internet, I know it's out there. I know it. And I'm not even going to
brains, yeah.
I know it's a thing, man. I can sense it. My senses are tingling there, so I'm not even going to touch that. But tag match was fine. I will say, as much as the Reigns recovery after the belly to bang on the announce table bothered you, I think what I liked about this, at least, was that Ambrose got the winning pinfall. So again, continuing that theme of, we're going to put Ambrose a little bit at the forefront tonight.
But of
so
course, he wouldn't have been able to get that winning pinfall if Roman didn't have his miraculous recovery and take Big E out of the picture magically.
Exactly. So, I mean, like I said, certainly wasn't perfect giving Ambrose that spotlight because I would have liked a little
It's
bit more
so funny,
independence.
John, because I can't help but shake the feeling, or I can't help to shake the feeling, or whatever. I feel like if the roles had been reversed and the plan was for Roman to get the winning pinfall, Ambrose would have just stayed out there lying on the announce table until the match was over, and Roman would have Superman through both Big E and Kofi.
You're probably right. Yeah. Yeah. That
But
doesn't sound absurd to me.
of course, Dean needed Roman to pin Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, that does bother me, dude. Again, like I feel like they did a lot right with Dean Ambrose tonight, but certainly that's not to be conflated with they were perfect with Dean because I would have loved had he, I know we always joke about this term with Roman Reigns, but really like overcome the numbers, overcome the odds while Roman's out. Maybe Big E and Kofi have a miscue and Dean Ambrose capitalizes. Show that this man can scratch, claw, and survive because that's what he's gonna have to do at Fastlane. I would have loved.
I would have loved if Kofi and Big E would have hit their tag finisher on him and he would have kicked out.
See, now to me, I think that would have been a bit excessive. I think that would have been a bit much. I feel like, again, if you just had like a miscue or like an accident happen or maybe Xavier Woods got too involved and Dean used that to his advantage, something. Because I'm not asking him, because to me, like if you kick out the tag team finisher, he's kind of bordering on superhuman, and we already complained about that with Roman to a degree. I think Dean is better than that. To me, Dean, his strength is his wiliness. His not necessarily his intellect, but his ingenuity to find an opening in a situation. And his toughness, yes. But I think you could showcase that toughness in a less explicit way than, we just hit him with our biggest shot and he's still kicked out. So I do disagree there, but I think you and I are on the same track. You could have done a greater service to Ambrose here. And instead of just being like, Roman Reigns saving Dean Ambrose again, because, what does that make Ambrose look like? And then it doesn't really help matters because when Roman Reigns is neutralized by the New Day, Brock Lesnar is able to F5 Dean Ambrose. Now, I can forgive this because it's Brock and he's the beast, and that's really what this match is about, right? These two guys staring down Brock Lesnar. But for Dean Ambrose to not even put any kind of a fight up, no elbows, no attempt at a dirty deeds, and just get F5'd, while Roman's neutralized, wasn't really the biggest fan of that either. But it was what it was, I guess, and that's pretty much how we close the show off. And yeah, I mean, do you have anything else you want to say about this main event before we get to our next segment?
No, yeah, let's just go.
All right, high spots and low shots. I'm going to be real quick about this. My low shot is the Big Show. Even though he won a match in relatively quick fashion, I mean, his beatdown was brutal, and nobody had his freaking back tonight. So, yeah, he pretty much just got destroyed by the Wyatts, and I was glad to see them have this moment, given that Bray was not on the show. But, yeah, it was a tough night for the world's largest athlete. So who's your low shot?
Well, Big Show won a match, and even though he got beat down afterwards, at least he did get a win. There was only one person on this entire show, though, that I can say lost a match as a champion. And not only did she lose a match, but she lost to the biggest jobber in her division. This is basically the equivalent of Triple H as world champion losing to Heath Slater.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Yeah. I think you pretty much gave all of your justification in your build-up, so I don't even have to add anything. My high spot is Dean Ambrose. Yes, I know he got F5 to end the show, and that was the last image we were left with, but I love the idea that he stared down the beast. I love the idea that he got the winning pinfall for his team. Again, was WWE perfect in their handling of Dean Ambrose tonight? No, they were not. But I was glad to see that, in my words, in my notes, they reined in Reigns tonight. Yeah. And they actually put Dean more at the forefront, because that's what it's about. I'm still waiting for him, my Raw request from last week, to drop the IC title, because I think that does raise the stakes a little bit. But they're starting, I think, to make more progress in how to handle Dean Ambrose so he's not a background piece for Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar 2 at Fastlane with Dean Ambrose. Because now it's actually feeling like a triple threat to me a little bit more. So Dean Ambrose is my high spot.
I like that. You know what? I hated this show enough tonight that I'm going to get snarky about it. My high spot is Lucha Underground, because this show made me want it to be Wednesday so fast that I don't even want to experience the next 48 hours.
That might actually be a first, because I know we've done creative high spots before that, are very loosely tethered to the show, but they're still tethered to the show. Yeah. I feel like...
No, tonight's winner, if you watched all 3 hours of Raw tonight, or even 2 of the 3, tonight's winner was Lucha Underground, because by comparison, Raw was absolute garbage, and all this show made me want was more Lucha.
And again, like people have said in the past, Lucha is more productive and more entertaining in 1 hour than Raw is in 3.
Dude, Lucha Underground in 1 hour does more with their characters and storylines than the WWE does in 2 weeks of full, just not even just Raw, but full programming, including SmackDown, including Main Event, including Superstars, just the whole scope. You get 2 weeks of WWE, cram it down into an hour, and it might be somewhere close to maybe being as a good or enjoyable as Lucha Underground, and even then, I doubt it.
Completely agree. Nothing more to say on that. Let's get on to our final segment. Raw request. Going to be real quick about this. My Raw request for this week. Still waiting again on Dean Ambrose dropping the IC title, but for a new one for this week, I want more undercard acts besides Titus O'Neil getting pushed and getting featured. I even say here, I love the principle behind Titus's exposure, but I love the principle more so than the actual talent. So, I think there are guys more talented than Titus O'Neil. Hell, Titus O'Neil beat one of the guys that I'm thinking of tonight, in Tyler Breeze. Let's give them stories. Let's give them credibility. Let's give them wins. You've got 3 hours to do it. Titus O'Neil can't be the only one getting a kind of rub because of his extracurricular work for the WWE and all that other stuff. There are plenty of talented guys in that undercard. Utilize them, especially because we're still not out of the woods of this whole injury crisis yet. So that's my request.
And that's the thing, too, is that, don't you love that even though it seems like half of their roster is marred by injuries, they're still petty enough to be like, oh, Tyler Breeze wanted to leave early one time, so he's going to lose all his matches now.
Exactly. God forbid I try and stay healthy.
What would they do if Roman Reigns had some kind of a family emergency and he wanted to leave early?
Dude, they'd pucker up and they'd kiss ass.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's your Raw request?
My Raw request, there are probably about a dozen or so problems that I had with the show that I could request for them to just do better next week, but I think the easiest route for me to take is to give your acts a breather. We don't need the Usos on every single episode of Raw. We don't need Titus O'Neil now on every episode of Raw. We do not need Dolph Ziggler on every episode of every show that you put out ever. We just want a little bit of a break from some of these acts, even if you only decide to kind of roll with the NXT style and have everybody on maybe 3 out of the 4 Raws in any given month, or better yet, 2 of the 4 Raws in any given month. Just pull back, and that'll allow you to feature more people and more variety. And it's never going to happen, but I can ask for it, right?
Yeah, that's why we're here. In fact, I think your Raw request is a perfect complement to mine, so they kind of sandwiched together pretty nicely this week.
Yeah.
With that said, is there anything else you want to say?
Just please end it.
Okay, you got it, man. All right, with that said, guys, this has been Raw. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what questions do you have for our subscribers this week?
How about if we just say, hey guys, are you looking forward to Lucha Underground this week? Because I know I sure am.
This poor man, people. Look at this man. He has suffered tonight. So yeah, get talking to us. How much are you anticipating Lucha Underground? And if your answer is, I'm not, well, I'm sorry to tell you you're wrong. So with that said, be sure to take the conversation over to Tweetov. That is
What
Pro
are you,
Wrestling.
Jim Cornette?
I know, right? Be sure to take the conversation over to Tweetov. That is Pro Wrestling is taking over Facebook. Great group of wrestling. I'm actually curious to know, I should say, what they thought of this Monday Night Raw tonight. But I get it, though. If you're not one for the big Facebook groups and all that stuff, Ashton's created a TWitWoW subreddit. There you will find all of our TWitWoW content, and you can create threads of your own on all things related to pro wrestling that Ashton and myself can participate in, as well as everybody else in the TWitWoW community on the subreddit. And we will see you again for Lucha Underground, both live reactions and a formal TWitWoW review. Guys, I mean, to me, this Raw tonight was the greatest ad for Lucha Underground, so I don't even need to do my usual hype. You guys know what to do next. Be sure to join us. Tune in, and peace out.